We begin from the National Assembly, where the House of Representatives Ad Hoc Committee has invited the Finance Minister, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, the Accountant General of the Federation, and the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, among others, to answer some questions. It's in connection with its investigation into the alleged loss of over $2.4 billion in revenue from the illegal sale of 48 million barrels of crude oil exports in 2015. The committee is also concerned about the disparity in figures from crude oil sales from 2011 to 2014 and is accusing the Minister of Finance of improving payments to whistleblowers at variance with the whistleblowers policy. Our correspondent Terry Kumi reports.
The House of Representatives continues its investigation into a whistleblower's allegation of illegal sale of 48 million barrels of Nigeria's bonylite crude in China in 2015, valued at $2.4 billion. The Speaker, through his representative, is concerned about the safety of the whistleblower.
The policy is without statutory backing and the receipts and expenditure of these proceeds. It does appear to conform with the constitutional provisions, and the payment of compensation does not appear to be somehow transparent. Let me state emphatically that while whistleblowers who may have volunteered information to this Honorable House will receive the maximum legislative protection and confidentiality.
One of the agencies invited is the Code of Conduct Bureau and is represented by a former member of the House of Representatives and present Federal Commissioner at the Bureau. He said he had moved the same motion in 2017 and investigation was concluded.
After 7 years, we are still where we are. I have been talking, I have been speaking. That is not the issue. It is the will, the commitment to see that Nigerian resources that have gone to global destination should be brought back to Nigeria.
The motion you then move in the 8th Assembly was the investigation concluded, and if it's concluded, so that we'll be able to have it as a referral document, the clerk can get that report that was laid.
Investigation, to the best of my knowledge, was perfectly done, and it was brought to the Committee of the Whole as are there. Whether it was unanimously passed is what I cannot recall.
The committee then extends further invitation to all relevant ministries, departments and agencies, while accusing the Minister of Finance of violating the whistleblower policy.
If there are recoveries being made from whistleblower revelations, we expect those monies to be paid into the accounts of the Federation as required by law. And if any expenditure is to be made, it should come through the National Assembly. But that does not appear to be the case, and we are inviting the Honourable Minister of Finance, the Attorney General of the Federation, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, and all other stakeholders involved in the implementation of the whistleblower policy to appear before the committee.
Meanwhile, a group of protesters had earlier besieged the National Assembly, asking the House to halt the probe, as the matter was in court already. The House is, however, proceeding with its investigation.
To the court, the All Progressives Congress, the APC, is asking the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal to dismiss the petition filed by the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi. The APC is also challenging the court's jurisdiction to hear the petition on the grounds that it is, among others, incompetent. Among APC's grounds for challenging the competence of the petition are that Mr. Peter Obi was not a valid member of the Labour Party as at the time of the election. The APC argues that Mr. Obi was a member of the People's Democratic Party until May the 24th, 2022, and was screened and cleared as the party's presidential aspirant in April 2022. It adds that Mr. Obi purportedly resigned his membership of the PDP on May the 24th, 2022, to join the Labour Party on May 27th, 2022. That Labour Party conducted its presidential primary on May the 30th, 2022, which purportedly produced Peter Obi as its candidate, which time contravenes Section 77(3) of the Electoral Act for him to contest the primary election as a member of the Labour Party. The APC submits that by the mandatory provisions of Section 77, 1, 2, and 3 of the Electoral Act 2022, a political party shall maintain a register and shall make such register available to the Independent National Electoral Commission not later than 30 days before the date fixed for the party primaries, congresses, and convention. It maintains that as of April 30th, 2022, Mr. Peter Obi was still a member of the PDP, and his name was not and could not have been in the register of members submitted by the Labour Party to INEC. The Labour Party and Peter Obi are challenging the victory of President-elect Bola Tinubu of the APC, winner of the February 25th presidential election, on grounds of alleged non-qualification and non-compliance with the Electoral Act, as well as Tinubu's alleged drug case in the United States. But the APC said the President-elect Bola Tinubu only surrendered $460,000 in 10 bank accounts that were opened in either his name or that of Compass Finance, an investment company. Meanwhile, the Lagos State Governorship National and House of Assembly Election Petition Tribunal has received a total of 48 petitions in respect of the 2023 elections held on February 25th and March the 18th. A breakdown of the petitions as obtained from the Secretariat by Channels Television shows that 4 petitions were filed to challenge the governorship elections held in the state on March the 18th, 2023. Among the petitions are those filed by the PDP and its candidate, Abdulaziz Adediran, as well as the Labour Party governorship candidate, Gbadebo Rhodes Viver. The governorship candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Rhodes Viver, listed 3 grounds on which his petition is based: that Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu was at the time of election not qualified to contest the poll. He also states that the election of Governor Sanwo-Olu was invalid by reason of corrupt practices or non-compliance with the provisions of the Electoral Act 2022 and the Constitution. The 3rd ground is that Mr. Sanwo-Olu was not duly elected by majority of the lawful votes cast in the election. He asked the tribunal to nullify Mr. Sanwo-Olu's victory and declare him the winner of the election. Mr. Adediran and his party, the PDP, on their part, listed 2 grounds of appeal to the effect that the governor of Lagos, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, and his deputy, Quadri Hamzat, were at the time of the election not qualified to contest. He also states that Mr. Rhodes Viver, who was declared by INEC as having scored the 2nd highest number of votes, was, at the time of the election, also not qualified to contest. Therefore, all votes cast for the APC and the Labour Party candidates be declared wasted. In other stories, the River State Governor Nyesom Wike has defended the continued protest by members of the People's Democratic Party in River State at the INEC office in Port Harcourt, describing it as preemptive vigilance. Now, the PDP members have been occupying the roads leading to the state INEC office for 1 week to demand a joint inspection of electoral materials, among others. Governor Wike, who was speaking during a media chat in Port Harcourt, also cautions the national leadership of his party against influencing the Kogi State governorship primaries in favor of a particular candidate.
What's happening? Sometimes when you ask this kind of question, you say, how are we sure?
It's the 2nd media chat in a month and the 3rd this year by Governor Nyesom Wike of River State as he continues to speak on state and national issues.
We're going to work. And some of them say we won't do this.
Top on the agenda for this engagement is the continuous protest by the PDP at the INEC office in Port Harcourt to demand a joint inspection of electoral materials, amongst others, an action he considers not out of place.
There's nothing wrong being vigilant. I said, you have had an experience, you want the same thing to do occur, then something must be wrong with you as a human being. This was the experience you had last time. And then you go and say, oh, they've assured me nothing like that will happen. Even if nothing like that will happen, that does not mean that you should not be vigilant. You must be vigilant, extra vigilant.
He explains that the handling of post-election complaints must be without sentiment, criticizing human rights lawyer Mr. Femi Falana and the Nigerian Bar Association over calls for the release of APC lawyers arrested in Port Harcourt.
NBA president issued statement that the lawyers must be released. It was so surprising. Why not say police? If you say you arrested lawyers believing that you have intelligence on this, we're giving you within 24 hours to make sure they are charged to court or you come out with a report. You cannot just interfere.
Meanwhile, as the governorship primaries in Kogi, Imo, and Bayelsa State inches closer, Governor Wike advises the acting chairman of the PDP to act differently from the suspended chairman, especially as it concerns delegate list.
Damagun has called me over and I said, listen, I hear you are the acting chairman now, as provided by the Constitution. You have to show difference. You have opportunity. There have been primaries. Elections will come, like what they are going for now in Kogi State. And of course, you have seen what is going on. How lists have been, changed to favor a particular candidate. Yeah, the delegates list to favor a particular candidate whom, as far as I'm concerned, is dead on arrival. There's no way, if what they are planning happens in Kogi State, where they are toying, they are giving opportunity to Dino Milai. And this is what I tell people. You started to fail first. When you give Dino that ticket, you know he won't win in Kogi State. And then tomorrow, why would Kogi people say they will vote for a candidate like Dino? Are we joking?
In the meantime, while the battle for the leadership of the National Assembly rages on, Governor Wike says the PDP in Rivers State will only support anyone presented by the ruling party.
In the meantime, the PDP governorship aspirant in Kogi State, Dino Milai, has fired back at Governor Nyesom Wike for laughing off his aspiration to succeed Governor Yahaya Bello. In a statement on his Facebook page, Senator Milai says it is surprising that Governor Wike has suddenly become the self-appointed public office regulator who could determine what will happen in states. According to him, Kogi is not River State, where he says Governor Wike determines who becomes governor, adding that power belongs to God. Well, Senator Milai says Governor Wike is against his governorship ambition because he backed the PDP flag bearer Atiku Abubakar against the governor's interest in the G5. In part two, after the break, 12 people killed in a road accident involving a passenger bus and a trailer on the Ebonyi State axis of the Abakaliki-Enugu Expressway. Please join us again. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television. A reminder of our top stories. House of Representatives Ad Hoc Committee invites the Finance Minister, the SGF, Accountant General of the Federation, and NNPC Limited to answer questions on the illegal sale of 48 million barrels of crude oil export in 2015. APC asked the Presidential Election Tribunal to dismiss the petition filed by the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, says the Labour Party flag bearer was not qualified to contest the election held on February the 25th. Governor Nyesom Wike defends protests and demand for materials used in the election in Rivers by PDP members in the state, vows that the party will ensure it is not shortchanged at INEC. And police say 5 people have died after an employee opened fire at a bank in Louisville, Kentucky, and live-streamed the attack on Instagram. In Plateau State, the police have continued to occupy the State House of Assembly entrance, preventing lawmakers from gaining access into the chambers. Now, crisis erupted among the lawmakers after the judgment of the Plateau State High Court ordering the reinstatement of the impeached House Speaker, Mr. Abok Ayuba. The Commissioner of Police in the state, Mr. Bartholomew Onyeka, explained during a press conference at the police state headquarters in Jos that threats to lives and property based on intelligence reports informed the continuous sealing of the assembly.
In view of the intelligence I got, an invitation was sent to the honorable members of the Plateau State House of Assembly, which they honored and came with their team of lawyers. And there and then, along with members of my management team, they were advised not to do anything that would lead or be inimical to the breakdown of law and order. Hence, the deployment of policemen to guard the premises as earlier stated. It will be a negligence or the relation of duty on my part as the Commissioner of Police here on the Plateau Deployment of police personnel to the State House of Assembly wasn't targeted against any person or group of persons. It was merely preventive to maintain peace, protect lives and properties, and to prevent the breakdown of law and order.
In the aftermath of the 2023 general elections, politicians need to be temperate and conflict-sensitive in their speech in order not to heat up the system. That's the position of the Director General of the National Orientation Agency, Dr. Garba Abari, who was speaking during an interaction with journalists in Lagos. He also warned politicians to rein in their supporters and avoid promoting violence.
Many of the sins that we are witnessing are nothing but fallout of the character, the behavior, and the conduct of our political leaders, who do not put the country first, but self. And in this process, through utterances, through actions or inactions, try to appeal to religious sentiments when they want to capitalize on number, to ethnic sentiments when they want to capitalize on emotions, and to sectional interests when they want to capitalize on parochial interests. So these are some of the things that we all have to be very careful about, we as citizens, so that we should discern and be able to disaggregate between those who love the country and those who do not. The elections have come and gone, and happily one of the least violent elections that we have witnessed. Kudos to Nigerians for acceding to the call for a violent-free elections. Those who have won have been declared as winners. Aggrieved parties have, within the limits of the law, gone to petition the tribunal to seek for redress. This is the way to go. But as the legal processes continue, I call on all Nigerians, but especially the politicians, to be circumspect in what they say, to be moderate in their conversation, and to be temperate in what they say and do, all in an attempt not to overheat the polity, but to allow peace to reign.
Some residents of Isheri, Omole, Oluwara and Magodo in the Koshofe Council of Lagos State are expressing worry over the violence and unrest that has trailed recent service of court orders on property owners in their area by court bailiffs. This followed the pandemonium they witnessed today when some youth protested the service of court notice that owners of some properties there may be losing them as a result of the order. Our correspondent, Timothy Crown Aderibigwe, reports.
This is Shomide Odujere in the Isheri, Omole, Oluwara axis of the Koshofe local government area of Lagos State. Everywhere is calm now, but it wasn't so earlier Tuesday morning when residents woke up to have a presence of court sheriffs and other security operatives who had come there to effect a court order.
What I actually see this morning is that there's a lot of people and a lot of DSS, SWAT this morning, so it's like a strange thing to us. So we now see that they are marking the house, that they are fighting for court issue.
Many of the residents were taken unawares, particularly by the pandemonium that followed the actions of the men who were reportedly carrying out the court order. Banks, churches, schools, business centers, private homes are all affected by the order, leaving many of them stranded.
They're just marking house, locking the factories, locking the supermarkets. Nobody should pass. So that is what we see this morning, and it's very painful. Nobody can go to work because everybody is scared.
An eyewitness who chose to speak with us on condition of anonymity said it's not the first time this is happening.
The last time it's almost the same way it happened today. They came very early in the morning, start taking possession of the properties around this area based on lower court judgment, high court judgment that was delivered in their favor. So that's what happened last year. This is an appeal court judgment now. We can't even open the place for business. No business today. All of us are going home now to sleep for today until the landlords will come back and tell us the next thing to do.
This development stems from a struggle for ownership of a parcel of land said to span over 151 hectares between the Olofin of Isheri chieftaincy family and Princess Josephine Momo. One of the lawyers representing the family says this substituted service was to draw the attention of the owners of affected houses to the ruling of the appeal court.
There is a judgment of the court which the owners of land were trying to execute. And those information contain the details of the judgment of the court, which they intend to execute.
Effort to speak to the other party in the matter, Princess Josephine Momo, or her legal representatives, have so far proved unfruitful. Affected property owners are said to have been told to relate with the Isheri Olofin family solicitors urgently, otherwise they could lose their property. While the legal impasse continues, those directly affected are sending a save our soul message to the Lagos State government to intervene. Timothy Crown, IDRBB, Channels Television News.
12 persons have been confirmed dead following an accident involving a commercial bus and a trailer on the Abakaliki-Enugu Expressway earlier today. An eyewitness told Channels Television that the bus collided with the trailer from the opposite direction around Ishielu and Kalagu axis of Ebonyi State. The FRSC commander in Ebonyi State, Esther Ochegbu, also explained that in the course of rescue operation, FRSC officers discovered that a total of 14 people were involved in the accident. While 10 female and 2 male passengers lost their lives, 2 others survived and are now receiving treatment in a hospital. It's been weeks after the 2023 general elections, and the electorate in the 6 states of North Central region of Nigeria have turned their attention to their need for good governance for the next 4 years. In our special reports series examining the expectations of Nigerians from the governors-elect, we bring you what the residents of the North Central states are laying out for their incoming state chief executives.
The North Central region is the home of a large portion of the arable land in Nigeria. Expectations of the electorate from the incoming government in the North Central region are largely similar: curbing insecurity and its effect on food production. Plateau State has had its fair share of insecurity, which has adversely affected good governance. Joaquim Jacob is a civil society activist who is hoping for a crisis-free society. He wants better funding of agencies involved in peacekeeping and peace building to facilitate the drive for a crisis-free society.
Peace and security on the plateau has been a nightmare, managing it, where of course we've seen previous efforts like the establishment of the Operation Rainbow and the Plateau Peace Building Agency, among other efforts by the federal government too. For the Plateau State Governor, the next person to come on board would need to see the empowerment of the Plateau Peace Building Agency through the repealing of the law establishing it, where it should be able to coordinate other efforts of CSOs on the plateau.
Good enough. The Plateau State Governor-elect has set its priority on security with the view to strengthen security at the grassroots.
It's a duty and responsibility of any government worth its salt to ensure the security of lives and property of its citizens. And by God's grace, when we come into government from May 29th, we're going to set in motion a robust plan to rejig the entire security architecture of the state. And I've said it often, that security is not about the presence of guns. It's about living in harmony in society.
In neighboring Nasarawa State, some attention has been paid to security to create a safer business and investment environment. The result is the attraction of over $500 million worth of investment to the state.
We have worked in a proactive manner to ensure relative peace while leveraging on that to attract investors to our state. Now that you have given us your renewed mandate, I I can assure you that we shall work together to improve on these achievements.
Security tops the wish list of both the electorate and the governor-elect of Benue State, who has vowed to resettle those displaced since 2018 across the IDP camps. While Ukankuru, a civil society activist, wants the backlog of unpaid salaries and pension arrears cleared, the Minister for Special Duties says the Reverend Father Hyacinth Alia administration will leverage on agriculture.
The incoming government needs to focus on salary payment and then infrastructure. We don't have investors in this state. We know very well that tax is something that's been killing us here. But if we have investment in this state, we wouldn't even mind about that. But these two things are some of the things that are killing us: salaries, infrastructure, investments. We have to have investors invest in this state to take us away from this issue and these problems we're having now that we've not been able to do anything much in the last 8 years of almost every government.
He is an indigent. He's aware of the problems that have confronted us, the difficulties we have faced, and the deficiencies observed in the provision of essential amenities and the provision of healthcare services, and even the issue of school performance, educational performance in the state. So there are so many things that are begging for solution. This is basically an agricultural state, and his program is rich in agricultural content, and this is also its synergy with the Asuwaju Shetima administration. They have made a strong promise to help Benue to rebuild, to restart, to recover from 8 years of neglect.
The residents of Kwara State advised the governor to focus more on opening new communities. They believe that the road infrastructure will ease connectivity between the old and the new. Meanwhile, the governor, who's returning for a second term in office, has decided to sustain the development efforts he had started.
We want the governor to ensure that he doesn't go through the wheel of renovation of an existing project or structures. We want him to do a paradigm shift in his approach. When it comes to the project, we want new locations, new roads, and new communities springing up in this second tenure of the Governor Brahman Abdulrazak.
While the residents wait to see their desires manifested through good governance, transition committees are beginning to emerge to probably document these expectations. In Benue, the transition committee set up by Governor Samuel Otom has opened up discussions with the governor-elect, Reverend Father Hyacinth Alia. Transition activities have kicked in Plateau and Niger State, where new governors have emerged. But in all, Nigerians in this state only want a better deal.
As part of efforts to bring to fruition some of his campaign promises, Abia State Governor-elect Dr. Alex Otti has announced the constitution of a transition council to help articulate the policy document that will form a developmental agenda in line with his vision for the state. Now, the council, which will be formally inaugurated on Friday, April the 14th, is made up of professionals and technocrats in business, economics, entrepreneurship, and politics, and will be chaired by partner and Chief Operating Officer KPMG in Nigeria, Mr. Victor Onyekwa. Now, the inauguration of the council is preparatory to his formal assumption of office come May the 29th. Let's now head to the nation's capital, and Terry Ikumi is standing by to give us the very latest from our Abuja studios. Hello, Terry.
Hi, Ayo, absolutely. Now, as part of efforts to reduce insurgency and terrorism to its barest minimum, the Minister for Armed Forces and Veterans of the United Kingdom, Mr. James Heapy, is pledging the continuous support of Britain to Nigeria. The minister, who is on a working visit to the country, says the military relationship between the UK and Nigeria will be deepened.
That friendship has been renewed again and again and again since the point of independence, because we have worked together to address challenges like maritime insecurity in the Gulf of Guinea or terrorism in the Lake Chad Basin. and we will continue to do so. Now, a lot of that is connected to training together and sharing tactics and techniques for how to deal with the problems of the day. But also it's to do with a shared inventory. It's to do with operating the same kit, like, for example, the Husky armoured vehicle, which was a vehicle that was used very successfully by the British Armed Forces in Afghanistan. It's designed to be used in counterinsurgency type operations, such as is needed to address some of the security challenges in this part of the world. And so that combination of training together, developing capability together, added to our shared history, is what makes the relationship between the UK and Nigerian armed forces so strong. And I have every confidence it will continue to be strong for many decades to come.
Now, the president has arrived in Medina, Saudi Arabia after leaving Abuja earlier today to begin an 8-day official visit to the Middle East country. Upon his arrival, he was received by the Deputy Governor, Saud Khalid Al-Faisal, and later visited and prayed at the Prophet's Holy Mosque this evening. According to the presidency, this visit is to be his last official trip to the Kingdom as President of Nigeria, as he is due to hand over power to a new administration on the 29th of May 2023. Students of Prince Abubakar Audu University Ayingba are appealing to the Kogi State government to wade into the litigation crisis between the alumni and management of the institution to avert bringing the image of the university to disrepute. The students, through their union body, made the appeal against the backdrop of the crisis, which they believe, if not stopped, may disrupt the academic activities of the institution.
There appears to be no end in sight to the crisis rocking the Prince Abubakar Audu University, as the management of the institution insists that the alumni of the university, rather than seeking to pursue the ideals of an alumni association, has resorted to devising ways of milking the university dry at all cost. Seated in this hall are top management of the institution, heads of student body, and the media. Addressing the gathering, the Vice-Chancellor of the institution, Professor Maria Tutenuche, sets the record straight.
It has always been a fight over money or dues, over the monies they were collecting. And let me also state this, that the money we are talking about are dues, are money levies on our graduating students.
While giving details of what happened even before she was appointed, the Vice-Chancellor pointed out that the Alumni Association of the Kogi State University has been enmeshed in leadership crisis, with two factions laying claim to the legitimacy as national executives of the association. The Vice-Chancellor maintains that the individuals who are bent on bringing the university alma mater and the leadership of the university to disrepute are the sponsors of a series of media attacks on the university.
When they came, initially, they had to sort themselves out. Who should be the authentic leader or group to pay a courtesy visit? And I made my position very clear that I was not going to relate with any alumni group until they try to resolve the issues between them.
The student body also called on the Kogi State government to intervene before the matter gets out of hand.
I urge the government to look into the situation on ground and resolve it amicably between the school management and the alumni union, so that there will not be crisis between the management and the alumni association.
All efforts to speak with the faction of the alumni proved abortive, as they insist they are approaching the court. For now, stakeholders are asking the state government to wade in to forestall the peace the university is already enjoying.
While still on education, in Ekiti State, the management of the state university has shut down academic activities in the institution for 2 weeks. This followed a protest earlier today by students of the institution over a 5,000 naira late registration levy imposed on them by the institution. The management directed all students to vacate the campus premises immediately, warning that any student found wandering around the university premises will be taking a risk. The angry students had shut the school gate, preventing both lecturers and students from gaining entry into the premises to express dissatisfaction with the levy. They also barricaded all roads leading to the university. The students frowned on the imposition of the late registration fees in the face of a hike in their school fees just a few weeks to the examination. And that's all from the nation's capital. The news continues from Lagos with Ayotunde Balogun.
Many thanks, Terry. To health matters. Parkinson's is the fastest growing neurological disorder, but very little is known about it, even among health workers, especially in the developing world. Well, that is why, as Nigeria joined the world today to mark the World Parkinson's Day, the Adewumi Desalu Parkinson's Foundation put together a forum for healthcare professionals across the country to get a better grasp on this life-altering disease. Our correspondent, Mary Alala Yusuf, tells us more.
Parkinson's is a disease of the brain characterized by challenges with motion. It could also affect cognitive and memory function. According to estimates, the prevalence has doubled in the past 25 years. The Adewumi Desalu Parkinson's Foundation, named for the man, an engineer by profession, who also had the disease in later life and left behind a wife, Maureen, and family, devoted to expanding the frontiers of knowledge of this ailment, is holding an online forum for health professionals across the country to be able to identify symptoms in their patients which may point to the disease.
In 2019, the global estimate was over 8.5 million individuals having Parkinson's disease. Dopamine is very important for our smooth movement, for initiation of movement, for a lot of physiological functions in the brain. What happens when these dopaminergic neurons are lost? These functions are lost.
So you can actually tell Parkinson's disease from other causes of Parkinsonism using the TrueDart scan or the DART scan. These are actually research tools. They are not yet into the mainstream of medicine. Dr. Shaima alluded to the fact that the diagnosis of Parkinson's disease is largely clinical, meaning it's what I see and what you tell me that I'm able to make a diagnosis. You can't be using that scan for the average person in order to make that diagnosis. But these things are coming on. We just have to know that they are there somewhere in the, as part of research development.
Mrs. Ifeanyi Deborah has early onset Parkinson's. She comes to the Center for Therapy.
Apart from the tremor, I experience stiffness and freezing.
Whatever the challenges they may have, we carry out exercises to meet up those challenges. It could be the slowness in their movements, it could be their freezing, it could be, pain, whatever challenges that they may have, their physiotherapy sessions are tailored towards those challenges so that they can move better and they can have a good quality of life.
Mrs. Deborah says the therapy really helps.
The medication helps me to move my body because in the initial time, without the medication, I cannot move my body, I cannot sleep well, I cannot turn as much as I want. But because of the help of the medication and the exercise, I can be able to turn and move my body and sleep well.
Nobody knows the exact cause of Parkinson's, but some things are considered risk factors, and it also comes with classical symptoms.
People who are within the ages of 60 and 65 are at risk of coming down with Parkinson's. There are motor symptoms and then there are non-motor symptoms. The motor symptoms are the symptoms that are visible, the ones that you can see. So if you see someone who has tremors, who is shuffling while moving, someone who has stiff posture, and someone who has a stooped posture as well. So sometimes those are the motor symptoms of Parkinson's.
Parkinson's disease has no cure, but if detected early, can be managed. Proper management could slow progression of the disease, and that's why recognizing symptoms early is important.
There is a longer route to diagnosis. Why? Because a lot of people, including healthcare professionals, don't understand the classic symptoms to look out for when to diagnose the disease?
Doctors see quite a number of patients in the course of their work. So a person may come to a hospital presenting symptoms of another disease or complaining of other things unrelated to Parkinson's. But if the doctor is trained to recognize symptoms of Parkinson's, the doctor can quickly mention that there might be those symptoms might be indicative of Parkinson's, and the person should go to see a neurologist. Early detection is key.
The man for whom the foundation is named is known to have fought valiantly with the disease until the very end, while working to expand knowledge about the disease. It does not help that seemingly unrelated and generalized symptoms like sleeplessness and constipation can go on for years before recognizable ones like tremors show up. But research is continuing to come up with tools that will pick up brain activity early in the journey for quicker and more effective management, and someday, treatment. Mary Alale Yusuf, Channels Television News.
Anne Wilder is standing by for the very latest in the world of business. Anne.
Thank you, Ayo. Hello and welcome to Business News. Let's begin with Nigeria's economy. It has been described as one of the most stable on the African continent. This assessment is coming from the International Monetary Fund team while presenting the World Economic Outlook for the year 2023 at the ongoing IMF World Bank Spring meetings in Washington, D.C. IMF's head of research, Daniel Lay, says in spite of the high inflation in Nigeria, tightening monetary policy will address major concerns in the economy. He also gave an outlook for Africa's second largest economy, that's South Africa, which is expected to experience a slowdown in the current year.
For Nigeria, our forecast is one of the most stable ones. For this year, we have a slight increase. We have 3.3% in 2022. That's an upward revision. And for 2023, about the same, 3.23% in 2024. So this is an economy with very high inflation as well. And this is why we have a forecast of about 20% for 2023. And one of our main recommendations is to tighten the monetary policy to ensure that this inflation comes down towards the more target levels. So that's for Nigeria. For South Africa, this is an economy where we have a sharp slowdown to about 0.1% growth this year. That's a minus 1.1 percentage point revision, and this mainly reflects the much more severe than expected outages in the energy sector. Especially in the last quarter of 2022. But next year, we expect more power to come online and the growth to recover to 1.8%. More renewable power in particular should be connected. On the inflation front, the inflation is forecasted to come down to inside the target range of the South Africa Reserve Bank, 5.8% in 2023, and then continue coming down 4.8%. So we did welcome the recent increase in interest rates to 7.75%. That is why we expect inflation to converge to the target.
And talking about the economy, the IMF has also made another statement saying the UK economy will remain the worst performing G7 economy this year. Well, the IMF also expects the United Kingdom economy to shrink by 0.3% this year, up from a previous forecast of 0.6%, then grow by 1% in 2024. The international lender also points to the country's high inflation, currently at 10.4%, and the sell-off in UK bonds following September's so-called mini-budget. Meanwhile, world growth is expected to decline this year to 2.8% from 3.4% in 2022, before rising slowly and settling at 3% in 5 years. Back here in Nigeria, let's head to the equities market. It resumed the first trading session of the holiday shortened week in negative territory. Investors are increasing sell pressure. Will Ibong has the details.
Welcome to the stock market report. Last week was a bearish week for the equities market. The market lost a total of 675 billion naira in 4 trading days. Now, after resuming for the 2-day Easter holiday, negative sentiments continue as the all-share index dipped further by 1.96%, taking the index below the 52,000 level. Now, the significant plunge by 196 basis points was largely driven by a drop in Airtel Africa, which was down 10% today, and it continues to take the downward path. However, we saw an upbeat for trade metrics. Volume surged by more than 545% to 1.72 billion units, and value rose by over 140% to 4.78 billion naira. Now, can equities manage to make a rebound from the mounting sell pressure? Let's see how investors and traders play in the second trading session for the week, and that's tomorrow. So that's the stock market report, and Will Ibong is back to you.
And that's Business News Tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Nwawodo. The rest of the news at 10 continues now with Ayotunde.
Thank you, Anne. Dozens of classified U.S. documents have been leaked and are now circulating on the internet. Well, images of the classified files have appeared on messaging app Discord since February. Complete with timelines and dozens of military acronyms, the documents, some marked top secret, paint a detailed picture of the war in Ukraine and also offer information on China and allies. Pentagon officials are quoted as saying the documents are real. Here's Simon Pusey with more on this and other international stories in around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Police say 5 people have died after an employee opened fire at a bank in Louisville in Kentucky and live streamed the attack on Instagram.
I think the action is in that building right there.
The victims were aged between 40 and 64. Among 9 others injured was a rookie police officer who had graduated to the force just 2 weeks ago. Police responded within 3 minutes and fatally shot the attacker in an exchange of gunfire. The shooting took place at the Old National Bank in the city centre at about 8:30 a.m. local time.
So when we talk about praying, I hope people will. For those that we are hoping can make it through the surgeries that they're going through, and then we've got to do what we have done these last 3 years after everything. We've got to wrap our arms around these families.
Leaked U.S. Pentagon documents appear to reveal a sensitive conversation between high-level South Korean officials on whether to send weapons to Ukraine. The secret document suggests the United States has been spying on its decades-old ally, South Korea. U.S. national security agencies and the Justice Department are scrambling to determine the source, scale and sensitivity of what appears to be the most serious spillage of U.S. intelligence in years. The leak has the potential to upset South Korea's relationship with both the U.S. and Russia.
Safe to say this is one of the most damaging intelligence leaks this century so far. About 20 pages are serial intelligence reports. The other 20-some pages are maps and war updates from Ukraine.
The US and the Philippines are holding their largest ever joint military drills a day after China concluded large-scale exercises around Taiwan.
As the collaboration and partnerships grow in strength and reach,
Filipino and US officials say the drills show their commitment to peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific region that is open and free. Washington announced last month that their annual Balikatan exercise with the Philippines would be their largest ever, involving more than 17,000 troops, including 12,000 from the states. Over 3 days, China's military rehearsed blockades of Taiwan in response to the island's leader meeting the US House Speaker last week. Washington criticized the drills as disproportionate. The head of Sudan's army said he remained committed to a plan for a new transition towards elections, despite the signing of a final deal being twice delayed. Protesters chanted, "No militia can rule a country," in Sudan's capital after the signing of the agreement that was delayed yet again. According to a timeline set up by the parties, a new Prime Minister would have been announced today, but the deadline lapsed after the parties failed to sign a final transition deal on the 1st and the 6th of April. At least 10 people have been killed and more than 24 injured when a bus went off a Peruvian highway and turned over in a ravine. Local media reported the double-decker bus was carrying about 76 passengers when it left the central city of Huánuco on its way to Lima. Emergency crews worked to rescue bodies from the bus and rushed at least 12 of the 25 injured survivors to nearby hospitals. Firefighters have struggled to contain wildfires in east and South Korea as strong winds and dry weather exacerbated conditions. The Korea Forest Service said the fire broke out around 8:30 a.m. local time, 168 kilometers east of Seoul. More than 570 firefighters, 6 helicopters and 41 engines were mobilized. At least 20 local residents have been evacuated from the area. And finally, a volcano in Russia has erupted early on Tuesday, releasing a 10-kilometer cloud of smoke and ash into the sky. Here, video of the Shiveluk volcano erupting with thick plumes of smoke billowing into the sky. Nearby areas were smothered in a thick layer of volcanic ash, rising to 8.5 centimeters in some areas. But some residents saw the lighter side. Here, a woman in a hazmat suit doing so-called ash angels, and here, someone making little ash statues known as ash men. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Thanks, Simon, and welcome to Sports News. The Super Falcons of Nigeria earlier today extended their unbeaten run to 3 games as they defeated the FIFA Women's World Cup host New Zealand 3-0 in an international friendly in Antalya, Turkey. Captain Onome Ebi headed the Super Falcons in front after 34 minutes at the Modern Sports Complex. Jennifer Ejejini made it 2 for the Super Falcons in the 48th minute after some excellent wing play by Michelle Alozie, while Desire Baranazie made it 3 for the girls. Now, Manchester City hammered 6-time winners Bayern Munich 3-0 in the UEFA Champions League quarter-final first leg this evening. Rodri, Bernardo Silva and Erling Haaland scored for the English side, who travelled to Germany for the return leg next Wednesday. Inter Milan put on one foot into the Champions League semi-finals with a comfortable 2-0 win at Benfica, with Nicolo Barella and Romelu Lukaku netting in length. And that's it on Sports News. I'm Jeffrey Ozomes back to Ayotunde for the rest of the news at 10.
Thank you, Jeffrey. And the main news again. The House of Representatives ad hoc committee today invited the Finance Minister, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, the Accountant General of the Federation, and the NNPC Limited to answer questions on the illegal sale of 48 million barrels of crude oil export in 2015. That's the news at 10 tonight. Many thanks for watching. I'm Ayotunde Balogun. Good night.